be talking about everything across the Spider-Verse. This is the greatest Spider-Man movie ever, objectively.
It's made me sort of change my mindset a bit on, is there actually superhero fatigue or not?
And it's just like,
no amount of Spider-Man knowledge or experience like prepared me for the way it ended. Spider-Punk as well. Absolutely.
oh my
loved
God.
Hobie Brown.
Obi Brown. Come off it, man like Miles. You get me?
Different parts of his body being animated at different frame rates. Worked.
Because
to
he's such a
perfection.
chaotic character.
Yeah.
I loved it. I also like the fact that Miles completely subverts the expectation of, oh, well, it's not canon because this movie is 100% a commentary on racist fans who don't like Miles as a character. And, you know, like 100% it was. The current Cody Zegler Miles run is fantastic, bro. I highly recommend you read it. It's so good. Hey, what is up, guys? Hey, everybody. I'm Zan,
I'm Oli.
and we the
Invincible.
Invincibles. Boom, guys. So me and Ollie, we were just talking right now before we started recording about Across the Spider-Verse. And, you know, I just figured let's just record and get into the conversation instead of just talking between us two and not have anything to say when we actually record. So let's jump into it. Also, spoiler warning, we're going to be talking about everything Across the Spider-Verse. We're going to be spoiling the movie for you. And
Yes.
I want to be as objective as possible when I'm talking about this movie, because we all know I love Spider-Man. You guys have seen the episodes. You guys have seen the Instagram posts, the TikTok reels. Thank you for the support, by the way. It's awesome. Great. Really appreciate you guys. But I mean, my whole wall right here is Spider-Man, you know, and half of them are Miles. They're not even Peter.
I've got a few Spider-Man steel books, as you can kind of see here. Two of them are both No Way Home. Got Homecoming. Yeah, so
So we love Spider-Man. That's what
we love
what
it.
I'm saying.
We love it.
So trying to be objective, the objective truth is this is the greatest Spider-Man movie ever, objectively. Like, I'm not trying to be super screamy fanboy here. I'm just being honest. The level of the writing and the creation, the creative direction, the love put into this movie, the editing, and just the work ethic, just the relentless storytelling, like the grand epic scope of the movie. I mean, objectively, it's just awesome. So, but we will be talking everything about this film. So please do not watch this episode if you haven't seen the movie. But
Yeah.
if you still want to watch just because of us, we appreciate it. Bro, so Across the Spider-Verse, honestly, like, I think this movie truly is saving superhero cinema. Like you know what I mean? Like, it's
it made me think. It made me think. I don't. Is there actually superhero fatigue, or are we just getting a bunch of shit superhero movies recently? Like, because when a good one comes along, like we've seen with Guardians of the Galaxy, like we've seen with Across the Spider-Verse, we get excited. So it's not. I don't think superhero fatigue is a thing. I think superhero movies may have just fallen into a trap of being made in sort of a lazy way and becoming, a bit too derivative. So, but when we get good ones, it's great. So it's made me sort of change my mindset a bit on, is there actually superhero fatigue or not?
I think also names attached is big, right? So like, to kind of throw it back a little bit back in time, not that far off, but like the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, I think a large part of what kind of garnered that success and that popularity, on top of the fact that the Batman character, is Christopher Nolan's name attached to it.
Yeah.
Like the fact that Christopher Nolan was writing, directing, his cinematography, his people were specifically working on this movie, his favorite actors that he's had working relationships for years are working on those movies. There was an element of people were excited about the potential product, right?
Yeah.
And so there was this element of, he's going to make a good movie out of a comic book IP. But, you know, what does that say about your perception of comic books then? Right? For far too long, people have thought that they're subpart of film, and that's so annoying. And I think that's what makes Across the Spider-Verse so incredible is the fact that it does truly honor and it does truly love and appreciate the fact that this is a comic book medium.
Yeah.
This Spider-Man started from comic books. People love the character because of comic books. The comic book aesthetic is also used in video games and is super popular in branding now. So this movie was not trying to make a successful character and make it out of a comic book, product, so to speak. This movie was like, we're going to make the greatest comic movie ever. If not the greatest, but definitely up there, just visually alone, and then create an engaging story, right? With the characters, right? With the character beats, with the motivations, the heart behind it, the messaging, the conflict. It just felt earnest. It felt really, really earnest. And I think the film's grand epic scope of the, of the events that are happening and where they're literally going and the set pieces that are happening action wise and how the animation is truly throwing you in. Like the scene, spoiler alert, when Miguel opened the portal at the real beginning with the paper vulture, and it's just like, and he's just like kind of staring or, kind of like that at, Spider-Gwen or whatever. And he's like moving in slow-mo and the neon red is like streaked because he's moving so fast. And like, just that sound alone and his motivations. I mean, the movie took itself seriously, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
The movie took itself very seriously, and it didn't let the preconceived notion of, oh, well, it's animation, it's for kids, detract from its potential to be just as intense as serious as a live action movie. Like, I never once, when I watched this movie, did I ever feel insulted, like my intelligence is insulted, like this is so brain dead humor, I never felt cringed.
No.
And I never felt bored. This movie felt like an animated movie that really is for adults, but kids will also love. And that's what I just can't say enough good things about it. And I think before I web it over to you, I think the fact that this kind of follows Miles Morales's just natural progression as an individual and combining that with the Spider-Verse is what makes this story all the more heartfelt, because Miles feels like, and I can relate to this so much personally, is Miles feels like everybody's always trying to tell him what to do. So guidance counselors, parents, friends, society, expectations, everybody's always trying to tell him he has to be Miles Morales in their specific way and in their specific process, without allowing him to actually test the waters and take a leap of faith himself, right? So he never feels like he's living his own life. And then the one avenue where he has to kind of escape that, the Spider-Verse, right? Miguel is doing the same thing. Oh, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that. And literally preventing him from saving his dad on the possibility that it could cause like a catastrophic, the black hole event. I forget what it was, the Canon events.
Yeah.
Stop those from happening like it started happening in the, Pavs, Mumbattan, the black hole started absorbing everything. You don't know that for Miles because his universe is an abnormality. It was pure luck versus the others. It was destiny. His was pure probability luck. So you can't really predict that. It's possible the same ending could happen, but I thought their motivations were earnest and it felt heartfelt, and you got where Miguel was coming from, kind of like you would get where an overbearing parent is coming from. And so Miles feels this pressure and this anxiety, and everybody's constantly trying to keep pushing him in. And he just, at one point he was like, I'm gonna do my own thing and you're gonna watch me do it and I will succeed at it, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. And this movie turned him from a soft, nice-hearted kid to a young man that's gonna do his own thing because he believes in himself and he has the work ethic to do it. And he's tired of people taking his destiny from him. He's tired of people expecting stuff of him. He's tired of people pushing him in boxes and placing him in areas where he doesn't fit, where he doesn't belong, and not allowing him to be happy. This movie, Miles was like, damn, all of that, I'm going to do my own thing. Like what he told to Miguel, I'm going to do my own thing. That to me is very inspiring, bro. Like just on a personal level, like like me, bro, when I got out of the movie, I was like, this was like therapy in a way. Like I was like, I'm gonna do my own thing. Like I gotta stop I gotta stop telling people what they expect of me or what I have to do or I'm a failure or this, that. I'm gonna do my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to Shamik Moore and shout out to the writers and the creators and shout out to Across the Spider-Verse for giving me the hope, the spark of hope that I can do my own thing and I don't need to be put in a box and I don't need to be on anybody else's timetables. I can do my own thing.
Yes.
Miles, when he jumped off of that high-speed train, that's kind of what I'm doing now, emotionally and
Mm.
mentally with my personal life. So
That
yeah, I
that
love this movie.
scene
10 out of 10.
that scene where he says, "Now I'm gonna do my own thing." That I'm prefacing this with I've always loved the character of Miles. I've always thought he's brilliant, but that scene where he says that it had a similar effect on the way I perceived him as like No Way Home had on the Tom Holland's version of the character. That No Way Home made me think, oh shit, Tom Holland, he is Spider-Man. And now this made me think Miles Morales, he's Spider-Man. He's the Spider-Man. Um,
Mhm.
that the animated Miles Morales in this universe, it might be one of my favorite versions of Spider-Man ever,
Mhm.
possibly after this film. Um, and just where do I start?
He's just an earnest character. Like there's not a lot of crazy backstory with him. If
Yeah,
you think about it on paper, Miles is a pretty not average, but a pretty normal character.
yeah,
Nothing crazy. And yet he still touches your heart and he's still such a popular character. He's earnest. He's
yeah.
earnest.
And okay, I'm gonna go back a bit and just talk about like the art of the film, the way it looks. They did it a bit in the first film, but they really did this a lot with the second one. Was how each person has their own art style in whatever dimension they're from. The art style of Gwen's universe that I thought was amazing. How it was always constantly changing. Then when she was getting really emotional, like the colors started like bleeding, and the background started running down the screen. I thought that was incredible. The way the
I agree.
vulture looked in the beginning, I thought that was very very cool. And Spider Punk as well.
Oh
Absolutely
my
loved
God.
Hobie Brown.
Obi Brown. You don't
Different
know. I can't do
Daniel
that. I can't
Kaluuya.
do that.
No, that was
He's
all right. That
incredible.
wasn't a bad impression.
You know what I mean, bro? Or what do you say? Come on, fit man like Miles. You get me? Or like, yeah, like
I hate the
I wish
AM.
we
I hate the PM.
yeah,
Double
I'm
entendre.
not
Hate in the afternoon, but also hating the prime minister.
yeah.
Um,
I love that. I love that.
different parts of his body being animated at different frame rates worked
Because
to
he's such a
perfection.
chaotic character. I
Yeah.
loved it.
Oh, so good. Uh, and yeah, just the way it looked, um, and then I don't know if this is jumping ahead, but obviously, you're the Spider-Man expert here at the Invincibles. But
I wouldn't say all of that, but thank you.
I've been a Spider-Man like nerd my whole life. He's like, I've watched the film since I was like what 2, 3 years old. No amount of Spider-Man uh, knowledge or experience like prepared me for the way it ended.
Oh my God.
Like I think we discussed it was either in the episode where we discussed the trailer for Across Spider-Verse or where we discussed the
Yes.
game. We talked about Salim, the possibility of an evil Miles, but we never thought of the fact he could be the Prowler.
Yeah, I never. So I get like. So let's just jump into the ending. That's what we get it. The characters were great. Miguel was awesome. Oscar Isaac was incredible. Shamik were highly Steinfeld. Everybody was great in this movie. Fantastic job. We want to talk about the ending, so let's just get into
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Let's just get into it.
So everyone wants to
Which to
hear
me,
about.
which to me also, I truly think this is this generation's "I Am Your Father."
Ooh, yes, yes.
I think it is. If we're going off of popularity, I'm not, or not popularity. If we're going off of quality,
Mm.
I'm not saying popularity because I mean Endgame, Infinity War, it's just a bigger pop culture stamp, sure. But if we're going off of popularity alone and quality, and especially if you're a Spider-Man fan, yeah, this ending is the greatest ending ever. And let me break it down. It was the execution. It's how they executed it. Not to be toxic and bring up movies we don't like, because I'm sure people associated with them are tired of hearing about it, and I get it. Um, like Thor: Love and Thunder, you could tell the movie didn't take itself
I knew
seriously.
you were
You
gonna
could,
say that.
like, and I get, like, I felt bad. I feel bad saying this because even Chris Hemsworth was like, I was just having fun on set, man, and I didn't realize the movie was that bad. Like, what he didn't say was bad. He said he was that silly. But so I don't want to like dunk on the guy. I don't want to dunk on them. I can tell that the Ragnarok or the Love and Thunder set knows that, yeah, people don't like us, and I
Mhm.
don't want to be a Star Wars theory and dunk on them even more. You know what I mean? So like, but I will say the writers, and they just didn't take the movie seriously. So when you don't take your characters seriously and you don't take the story seriously, and it's all just laughs to be laughed at, not laughed with, why would we actually have any emotional investment?
Mhm.
Because you're just a meme.
Yeah.
And so, it becomes very hard to watch a lot of these recent MCU products, bro. I'm not gonna lie. And I'm not trying to be a toxic MCU hater, but I think what this movie Across the Spider-Verse has shown now is MCU is not Marvel. MCU is an interpretation of Marvel.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's an
Yeah.
interpretation of Marvel. So Across the Spider-Verse, even though it's kind of connected in the greater MCU universe, you know, I still think that they they just did a better job with the Spider-Man character. And I know we were talking about the ending, but I think they've done a better job with the Spider-Man character, with all due respect to Tom Holland, because I love No Way Home. And I think
Mhm.
Tom Holland is my favorite live action Spider-Man. Um, but I think the movies just played too much on the kiddie Avengers aspect, too much. And I think that's where Across the Spider-Verse and Into the Spider-Verse, these Miles films have really shown, because it brings the focus down on just telling an engaging story about a brand new character versus how do we reinvent a classic character into the MCU.
Mhm.
You don't have to work with those parameters. So that's why I kind of enjoyed these movies more. And so to say, why I bring up the MCU thing is because the MCU, for unfortunately, has kind of interpreted a lot of what happened in Marvel Comics as, make it a jokey version of it so that more people can laugh, so it's not that dark. Across the Spider-Verse, or the Spider-Verse films, have no problem going very, very dark. Like, look at the
Yeah.
spots, like, I haven't even talked about the spot, but like, look at the spot, what happened to him,
Mhm.
like how he was violently ripped apart. you know in the first movie, they straight up showed murder. Like, they showed Kingpin kill Peter Parker. They didn't imply it, they showed it
Yeah.
in animation.
Brutally. Like very brutally.
So that's what I mean, is like, and it's because they took the character of Spider-Man serious. They took the story serious. They weren't going to try to interpret it to make it more general audience friendly. They were like, we're going to tell a good Spider-Man story,
Mhm.
you know? And I think that's why you could tell, like, when they make these events so grand and so epic, like they've done, like the Nueva York chase scene, like the reveal where Miles, like that spider that bit Miles was from another universe. I was like, that's incredible. Like, that is such good writing.
Yeah.
That is such good writing. And that also differentiates Miles Spider-Verse from Insomniac,
Yes.
which I think is important. So I think, like, overall, it's just the movie just took such huge grand strides to subvert expectations while also giving you such an epic scale. Last Jedi should have done that. But like, I'm just saying, like, Last Jedi would be, received a lot better if they did subvert expectations, but also be epic. Like, Spider-Verse subverted expectations and was also epic. So,
I think
you know,
just because these films take so long to make and how much care goes into them, they've been planning the whole story arc for, well, it's going to be close to a decade, because Into Spider-Verse was 2018. That, they would have started the planning for that around what, 2013, 2014. So
Mhm.
it's nearly a decade of these films being in the works, and they've had the whole story, because the little things that happen in this film, little hints of them were in Into the Spider-Verse.
Mhm.
Like when Miles, when his spider sense goes off for the first time,
Yeah.
and the color
Yes.
changes from the
Yes.
Prowler colors to the Spider-Man colors. That they've been dropping hints all the way, and the number on the back of the spider being 42. It's from
Mm.
like Earth 42 or something like that.
And also, 42 is the number of issues for the original Miles Morales run. 42
Oh,
is a
that's
special
good.
42 is a special number for the Miles Morales character.
That's good. That's a nice touch.
So like that's why I love it. But I think so, going back to the ending, I love the ending because it leveled up, right?
Hmm.
So Into the Spider-Verse, it really was a coming of age story about Miles, about finding yourself, but telling it in such an original, visually dazzling way, while also making stuff completely original from the comic book side. It was like watching a comic book come to life, and it, while also not forgetting that it's not just a comic book movie, it's a movie about growing up. Combining the both of them, and especially when you have brilliant scenes like the leap of faith, like What's Up Danger, you really feel the weight behind the awesome comic book moments.
Hmm.
There's heart behind the comic book praise mania awesome sequences, right?
Yeah.
So the first movie, it ended on a very positive note, right? Anybody can wear the mask, blah blah blah, right? And Miles is coming to his own. You go from Peter Parker dying to, the other Peter rekindling stuff with Mary Jane and him finding peace. Like Miles growing up and finding himself helped a lot of people. It was inspiring. So it was very hopeful. It was very, like a go get him Spider-Man, and it was just original. It was awesome, right?
Hmm.
This movie was like, yeah, but we're gonna be dark. like,
Yeah.
like if like that opening sequence with Miguel, like the characters, bro. Like Miguel was such an awesome antagonist. I thought he
Yes.
was Mortland for the longest time because of just how antagonistic he was to Miles and how he kind of looked vampiric. But I think they just did a good job with showing that you can have two heroes clash without one of them having to be evil or turn to the dark side or whatever. So
Hmm.
I think, yeah, I thought their characterization of Miguel was awesome. He wasn't entirely wrong, but he was in the wrong, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, Miles, his suit was awesome. Miles's character was awesome. The family dynamic, Rio and Jefferson, they were fantastic in this film. Um, Gwen Stacy, the opening sequence of it being Gwen Stacy's and her saying, this is how Miles like left me or something like that, or no, like Miles doesn't want to see me anymore. She said, but now Miles is gone. She said something like that. I've only seen
Yeah.
the movie once, so I have to see it again. But she said like, oh well, Miles is gone while she's doing the drummer set. So there was this foreboding sense of doom.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? There was this sense of like, what's going to happen in this film then? And then when you up it with Jessica Drew, Miguel O'Hara, and his entrance, the musical score, Miles, the direction of Miles and his character of him going from I'm not sure to when he told Peter B. Parker, we can run it back. Let's run it back. I'm like, oh, okay. Like he's about it. He wants to throw hands. Like he's about it. So I think like he was very assertive in this film and very confident in finding himself. Like I
Hmm.
love to see a Miles that is dominant and is confident and isn't as geeky as Peter, but still just as intelligent. He isn't as awkward as Peter. Miles is
Mm.
he feels confident in his skin. I like that. And I also like the fact that Miles completely subverts the expectation of, oh well, it's not canon because this movie is 100% a commentary on racist fans who don't like Miles as a character. And like 100% it was. But I thought like, so going back to the ending, um it was very intense because the buildup was Miguel, Miles, all the spider people chasing him. It's like a constant adrenaline rush, right? and Miles, that epic scene where he blasts Miguel out of the way, jumps off, and then the scene where he's like about to be transported home and Spider Bite and Miles are just staring at each other. And Miles like, "What are you gonna do?" And Spider Bite puts her thumb away, and Miguel screams no. And then Miles puts on his mask and goes away. I was like, haha, suck it, Miguel, suck it, Miguel. But then he freaking like sent Gwen back home, and that was villainous, dude.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, Miguel is cold. But I like that he's a hero, but he's not a nice guy.
Yes. I like
He
that.
is a dick. He is a Tony Stark, but way more aggressive, I feel.
Like a Nick Fury, I'd say.
Yes, but
Mm-hmm.
not as I feel like Nick Fury has an element of like he'll try to soften the blow a bit, but he'll still be direct versus Miguel is like, you suck, you're terrible, you're horrible. Miguel is like Gordon Ramsay of the spider people. He really is. He really is. But I say all of this, say that build up was so intense because of characters like Obi Brown, which is awesome. I loved how he was a big brother to Miles, and he was such a fan of Miles. There wasn't this weird awkward tension. Obi was like, "Hey, what's up, mate? Like, what you doing in it? Like, just how you doing, lad? Like, oh my god, I'm doing such a horrible British accent. But bro, I'm saying, man, I wish I was British, dude. Like, but
Oh, not at the moment.
yeah, I mean, not right now, but I'm just saying it'd be cool to have that accent, man. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, Obi was great. Pav was great. Jessica Drew was great. Miguel was awesome. The family dynamic. So because those characters were so well written, Gwen and her, how it was really a movie from her perspective, but it was Miles's movie. I thought that was awesome. So setting the stage for that foreboding sense of doom, you really kind of realize that you're in for an experience. And the movie was so grand and epic, and it took itself seriously. You were forced to be enthralled in it, and you love it.
Yeah.
I wish a lot of the MCU movies did that. With the ending, though, right? He's in the universe and everything. There's a sense of doom because the color scheme is black, red, and green. And in New York, and there's lightning happening, and there's rundown buildings. I'm like, this is not Brooklyn from like what's going on here? Like, are you home? Like, are you whatever? He goes home. There's a boxing bag in his room. There's tape on his walls. I'm like, this isn't your room. Rio's in there, and she's like, her hair is different, green eyes. I'm like, this is not your universe, bro. Evil Miles. And then when he gets jumped by Uncle Aaron and Evil Miles, and he, same situation as Peter B. Parker with the punching bag. I thought, Uncle Aaron like punched Miles's brains off, by the way. Like in that one sequence, I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Like, that was bad.
And
then
has he just killed him? For a split second, I thought, wait, is he dead?
I was like, that's how you end it?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Like, so but thank god, no. But then you see Miles, and this is why the ending is so brilliant, because Miles's worst fears are realized, because he was so scared of the Prowler for so long, and he was so scared of not letting anybody down and not being a villain and just being a good dude. So to see another version of himself be the Prowler, it's like the version of you that has made all of the mistakes you wish you didn't. All of your worst experiences are staring you right in your face. That was the personification of Evil Miles, in my opinion, especially when his dad is dead in this universe. So that's another fear of his. That's what he's literally trying to avoid. So, Miles, he was supposed to be the Spider-Man in that universe. If you notice the Spot's origins, Miles with the, the braids, he was drawing, the spider was on his hand, but then it got portaled to Earth 1610, where it bit our Miles.
Yeah.
So that Miles was supposed to be Spider-Man. And so that like realization just hit him. And then he sounds different. He has swag. He has all black with pink, the Prowler suit. It was intense too. Like on J. Jonah Jameson, he said, members of the Sinister Six cartel have been, killed or something.
Cartel, making the Sinister Six a cartel. That's cool. That is a nice touch.
I think I don't think this is an evil version of Miles. I think he's an anti-hero. I think he's a badass version of Miles. I think he, using the Prowler suit from Uncle Aaron, is killing members of the Sinister Six
Oh,
because they killed Jefferson Davis.
yeah.
And probably
That's
it's an
good.
Alfred Bruce Wayne dynamic, probably because maybe no, because maybe Aaron is like, you gotta stop, kid. Like, you gotta stop the bloodshed. But this version of Miles is bloodthirsty. He is like revenge seeking.
Mhm.
Completely the different version of our Miles, you know? But is he that different? Because they're so similar too. So it's like Miles is just staring at so much intensity. And then that's how you end the movie. He's
Because he's
apprehended. He's
thinking as well. He's like, if that spider had stayed in this universe, this would be me. This would be me in my home universe. My dad, yeah, he'd already be dead.
and it's just such a dark realization.
Yeah.
And just like the whole scene was just cinematically just done so well. Like Aaron's like, I'm not Miles, or I'm not the Prowler, and he turns him around and you see somebody on the rafters, and the Prowler stuff, but the suit was very sleeked up. It was very sick. It wasn't as bulky as Aaron's suit.
Yeah.
And he's just walking. You see the Air Force, you see the Jordans, not the Air Force Ones. You see the Jordans. You hear this about the Sinister Six cartel. Aaron throws the glove, he catches it, puts it on, and then he talks to Miles, and he's like, is your dad still alive? Huh? And Miles like, who are you? His mask goes away, and then the other Miles is like, I'm Miles Morales, but he says it with like a heavy Spanish accent. Miles like, I have to get home. Our dad's gonna die, and he says, your dad. So
Yeah.
instantly you're like, this version of Miles is not going to be one to be helpful. And he also, like, our Miles has always looked like friendly and, calm and warm. This Miles was cold in the eyes. Like, he looked like menacing, dude. Like, he's just staring at Miles and he's trying to intimidate him with the fist just right there. And then Gwen is, preparing the other spider people to get him. And then the movie ends. Yeah, and this movie is getting delayed also, by the way. It has to be. Like, they're going to be working on it. It's not coming out next year. I can guarantee you. But I'm okay with that. Take your time.
Yeah.
I just think, all that feel that I was saying. The first one was a very happy movie happy ending that inspired you. This ending builds up the characters that you love, and you have more of an attachment to them, and then drops them in the worst situation, and then they're like, wait. So you're like, wait, no, 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 no. And because of that, that's why to me, this is the greatest ending to a Spider-Man movie ever.
I think it's the best in a lot of categories. So for me, it's the best Spider-Man film. Also, probably the best comic book film, but also the best part one of any film I've ever seen. Uh, because first time I said that to someone, they said, "Oh, what about Infinity War?" I was like, "Yeah, Infinity War was obviously incredible, but we all knew what was going to happen.
Right, right, right.
Everyone predicted it's going to end with the snap. We all knew what was going to happen in that film. We had no clue really how this film was going to go. No one predicted that ending at all, and just the impact of that ending, the surprise of it, the shock of it, uh, the effect it had on Miles. Nothing, no part one of a film has left me on a cliffhanger like that. Best cliffhanger in a comic book film. Best part one I've ever seen, not just in comic book films. Uh, and one of the best, just one of the best, most enjoyable experiences I've had watching a film, because I didn't watch the trailers too much. I just watched each trailer like once or twice maybe. Um, so I fully enjoyed it, was immersed in it, and it's what, 2 hours 16 minutes, something like that. It felt so
Yeah,
much faster because you were so
it
invested.
did.
Um, and it's a whirlwind of a movie. It's so intense. Um, I love I love the fact that Miguel O'Hara as well is now being introduced to sort of the mainstream. in a way,
Yes.
because he's such a great character. And by the way, I didn't notice this when I was watching the film, but I saw an image on Twitter. You can see apparently his white costume being like built in the background of one of the shots.
The white and pink. Oh man,
So we'll probably get to
that would
see
have
that in
been.
Beyond the Spider-Verse, maybe.
He
Uh,
has to come back. Yeah, he's got to come back.
yeah.
I need more Spidey 2099.
So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it. And it was also, I think it was ballsy as well, because the MCU Spider-Man up until No Way Home didn't take a lot of risks. It was, it was
None.
great. I don't really have any problems with those films. I love them, but this film took a lot of risk because they know Spider-Man is like the ultimate sort of kid toy seller and stuff like that. Loads of kids will see this film. They weren't like you said, they made it dark. They weren't afraid to go to those dark places with the characters, which
Mhm.
you've got to respect. But just that sort of leads me into a point about the Spider-Man brand. The Spider-Man brand is like it really is massive,
Yeah,
and
it's bigger than sports teams.
yeah, the fact that they're using the Spider-Man brand to sort of show as well the capabilities of animation, what animation can truly do at the highest level, and the fact they got. By the way, they got that little 14-year-old kid who edited the trailer in Lego to edit the Lego
Mhm.
sequence in the film.
Mhm.
Perfect. Perfect.
But I
Uh,
hope he was paid. I hope you
yes.
paid him.
Pay your
I hope
animators.
pay them. Pay him. You better not have just sent him a free movie pass or something. Pay him. Give him a job in the future.
Imagine that
Pay our animators, man.
when he goes to university and he like he does like a personal statement or whatever. He can put like, if he does studies animation at university. What's your experience? Oh yeah, the best animated film of all time. Yeah, he animated the sequence in it.
Yeah, yeah. Like he, he
uh,
he earned that. He earned that, man.
Another thing about how big the Spider-Man brand is that this isn't sort of related to the film. I just noticed this the other day. I was on the Lego shop website as I do because I love wasting my money on Lego. You can like sort the sets by theme, and like Lego Friends, Lego City, Lego Star Wars, Lego Marvel, and then Lego Spider-Man. And I think Lego Batman might be the only other one where it's like just they've got a whole category just for one character rather than the brand that they're a part of.
Yes,
Um, and Miles is now at the forefront of the Spider-Man brand, which
I
is
love it.
brilliant because he's only existed for just over a decade.
I love it. I love it.
And he is Spider-Man now. He's not just Miles Morales. He is Spider-Man.
Yeah, yeah. And you want to know what makes him different, in my opinion, from Miles or Peter, or from Peter or Miguel.
Hmm.
Um, Going off of the movie. Well, no, I shouldn't. I'm not gonna cap. I'm not gonna lie to our audience. I've never read Miguel O'Hara comics Spider-Man 2099. My only experience is the video game Shattered Dimensions and Edge of Time.
Hmm.
So if I'm not that accurate with Spider-Man 2099, I apologize, but I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I never read his comics, so I don't know anything about his characterization. I only know the video game or the movies. But
Oh,
what
they
I will
need.
say
By
about
the way, just touching on Edge of Time, they need to replicate the moment from that where Spider-Man says, "Well, Miguel, I can't remember. Miguel's about to. I can't remember what he's about to do. He's about to do something a bit sort of not exactly in line with the Spider-Man morals." And then Peter says to him, "If you do that, you're not Spider-Man. Spider-Man does not do that. You don't know the first thing about being Spider-Man if you're willing to do that." I hope there's a moment like that, but with Peter B. Parker.
Miles, if Peter is Captain America, Miguel O'Hara is Tony Stark.
Yeah, that's a very good way of putting it.
That's my understanding, my very limited understanding of Miguel O'Hara as a character. If I'm wrong, yo, educate us. We love to learn more about our characters, man. But yeah, no, I just talking about Peter. Peter is a dude who had a lot of shit thrown his way, man. He had a tough life growing up. He was picked on, but he also had a lot of incel tendencies. He was picked on because he did a lot of weirdo stuff. He felt like he deserved attention, that he deserved praise, that he deserved the world just worshiping him. And when he got powers to actually make his life a little bit better, that's what he chose, right? Being famous from pro wrestling. And it wasn't until Uncle Ben's loss to where he had this constant, guilt and this constant like anger towards what he did, right? But it's not like a psychological, like something's wrong with him, like a Bruce Wayne thing. With Peter, it's more of the fact that he knew better and he
Mm-hmm.
still did wrong. So he's embarrassed about that. So there is this element of self criticism,
Mm-hmm.
and that I feel like people, especially us as podcasters, we doubt ourselves sometimes. So struggling with self-confidence, that's something that Peter has kind of had his whole life, but he was still willing to meet those adversities. He wasn't a pushover. He was a regular dude, a regular dude who had a lot of stuff thrown his way, but he always found a way to overcome it. He's an inspirational figure. I would say Peter is an inspirational figure. But Miles, what differentiates him, especially through this movie, is he's a kid, or he's an individual that wants to chase his dreams. He wants to be as great as he can be. For him, with great power comes great responsibility. Is also a great responsibility to yourself to be great.
Mm-hmm.
Versus with Peter, it was like Uncle Ben, because of Uncle Ben. With him, it was more of like a Peter's driven more by the love of people and the love around him. That's why Uncle Ben's death hits him so hard, because innately he's a people person. Miles is too, but because he didn't have a lot of the trauma that Peter did, he doesn't have such a callous view of the world. So he's more level headed.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that he's boring, as compared to Across the Spider-Verse. Now, I say he doesn't have that trauma and stuff compared to talking about the movie specifically. In the comics, he had a lot of trauma. Uncle Aaron was a horrible dude. Scorpion was a cartel mafia hitman. No, Miles had a lot of trauma in the comics. Venom murdering his mom, or technically the cops shooting at Venom, murdering his mom. He had a lot of trauma in the comics. But I'm just talking specifically about the movies. They kind of subvert the you have to have dark shit happen to you for you to be a valuable character.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Because we don't have to have bad stuff happen to us for us to be great.
Yeah.
And that is what the character of Miles Morales proves, is you can be great on your own. You can be him,
You can do your own thing.
You can do your own thing. You don't need a Disney sob story for you to do your own thing.
Yeah.
That's what I love about this character. And I'm not saying sob story to like dismiss anybody. I'm just saying that's a trope that happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Parents died. This person died. I got a disease. There's always something dark that happens. Like, I like how this movie's like, you could be a hero and just be a normal dude. That's something that I feel like we've missed. That's something that Superman is. Miles
Mm-hmm.
brings a lot of that energy here. So I appreciate that. I think Miles is the definitive Spider-Man because I have just enjoyed his stories more recently. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like, to me, I look at it as a team player, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
let's say if you're a fan of Liverpool, right? Steven Gerrard might be your favorite player of all time, but what if, I don't know, like they sign Erling Haaland and he wins way more Champions Leagues
Yeah.
and everything like that? Then he's gonna be your favorite player.
It's for
It's just
different
natural.
generations, isn't it? Like this, for this generation that's growing up now, Miles might end up being their definitive Spider-Man. When they ask them,
Mhm.
like, who's Spider-Man, they'll like picture Miles Morales, probably.
Mhm. Right.
Um, Especially if they bring him into live action, which that
And he just has
seems like
cooler
the plan to do. Yeah.
he just has cooler powers. I'm sorry, but bioelectricity, invisibility, like the only thing Miles is missing is a like in the comics is like villains, like new villains, which they're fixing right now. They're adding new villains right now. The current Cody Zegler Miles run is fantastic, bro. I highly recommend you read it. It's so good.
The costume, the costumes that he's had in the recent sort of year or two in the comics, fire.
he's never missed.
Yeah.
He has never missed, bro. The costumes in Spider-Man 2, Miles is getting a Ghost of Tsushima ninja suit. Did you see that with the cape?
Yeah, and there's different color variations of it as well.
Yeah, like, bro, let me tell you, man. Like,
We
I'm
need a
so
whole
excited
episode
for
on
this.
that soon, by the way, because it's
Yeah,
what is it, 4 months till it
I,
comes out? That's still
yeah.
a while, but
I'm about to get as jacked as Spider-Man in 4 months, bro. That's my goal. Like, I'm about to get super jacked, and then on that episode of the podcast, bro, on Invincibles episode 30 something, whatever it is. Well, no, not 30, way more than 30. Um,
we'll
I'll
work
have
it out.
my yeah, I'll have my Miles suit, and
Oh, when we do that episode, if we both get the collector's edition, we need the Spider-Man Venom sort of statue in the background
mhm.
of both of
Yeah,
our
yeah.
shots.
I want it, and I really hope our theory about a superior Spider-Man at the end happens because it needs to. Because also then you could throw down and throw it back, to Spider-Man 1, the conflict of Otto versus Norman is reborn with Superior Spider-Man versus Green Goblin.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Wow. Oh, that's amazing.
I think that is a clip. I think that's a clip.
Yeah,
I
watch
this
out for that coming on TikTok in a
Ollie,
few days.
Ollie, I swear to God, I swear to God, bro, I just came up with that right now, bro. I haven't seen, like, wallahi, I haven't seen that anywhere. Like, I'm not, and
Yes,
I'm not.
talk to me about it now. How should that happen? How should that play out?
And Spider-Man 3.
Yes, just the conflict between a a Spider-Man controlled by Otto and Green Goblin. How would you have that
Well,
play out?
Well, Spider-Man 2, so we're going with the premise of our theory, which
Yeah.
is Peter gets comatose because of Venom. Miles goes to Otto to help him out and mind swap and everything like that. Well, one, you need to have the perception that Peter's still in there. So think Get Out, like when Daniel Kaluuya was in the sunken place and he couldn't really move and he was having an out-of-body experience, but his um people, like the Armitage family, like the white people, they were like controlling him, like, everything, like, not controlling him, but they were like, he couldn't move, so they were like carrying him and stuff like that. There needs to be an element of that if you're going to do Superior Spider-Man, because Peter is trapped in there, right? So there isn't like with this premise, you also got to understand there isn't a body that Otto can go back to,
Hmm.
because in the comics, and Insomniac can do their own thing. Like, for example, Eddie Brock is not in this game reportedly, just like how Jason Todd was on Arkham Knight. But you know, but no, I mean, I'll believe him. Like, Eddie Brock isn't in this game. It's probably Harry. Um,
Yeah.
but I think where I was going with that is Otto needs to have a situation where he needs, like, yeah, he wants to take Peter's body, but there's also an element of he needs that. So
Mhm.
maybe his body has decayed to the point where he can only communicate like through, like a computer's in his brain and it types out his words or something. Um, that there needs to be a situation where you kind of feel pity for Otto and horror for Otto, and considering how dark they're going with this game, having Tony Todd as Venom, you could kind of do that.
Yeah.
A scene where Otto is completely like just he can't move or whatever. So I say that to say there needs to be a physical reason, in my opinion, something that's palpable that we feel and relate to Otto, for him to take over Peter's body. That way, that there's a clash of emotions that we have within us. So, in terms of that dynamic, Peter needs to be trapped. Essentially, why that is important is because now, as Peter Parker, Otto is doing a lot more darker things, like killing people. And I know people might say, oh, well, how is that any different than the black suit? You got to keep in mind, Peter rips off the black suit and comics, or in this game, Miles is probably going to get it off him.
Hmm.
I don't think the black suit is going to be Miles, or I don't. I think if the Venom symbiote tried, it couldn't take over Miles because of the bioelectricity. So it probably just wants to stay away from him.
Yeah.
So I think that Miles is probably going to get the suit off of him. You know what I mean? Most likely.
Hmm.
And then you have a character that's like, I could have gone to the dark side, so to speak. I could have gone all the way. I was very close, but I didn't. Now Peter's trapped and his worst realizations are coming to life. What he was about to do, Otto's now doing fully as the superior Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But it would have to be suave. You can't have a situation where Peter is being reckless and being a total douche to everybody he loves again, because you're already doing that in this game. So in this case, maybe be a bit more creepy with it. Like he has a completely different facade, you know what I'm saying, around others. Like he's playing people because he's Otto, you know?
Yeah.
But then behind back doors, he's Otto Octavius is doing his own thing. So I guess what I'm saying is the conflict that I it has to completely depend on how Spider-Man 2 is doing it. Because you can't copy this game. Because this game is what Across the Spider-Verse is, to me, like the greatest Spider-Man movie ever, because of just how epic and grand and dark it was. That's going to be the same in Spider-Man 2, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So you can't copy that. You got to do your own thing. So that's the dynamic with Otto and Peter. Now, how that connects to Norman, honestly, I think it would be kind of dark to have a situation where maybe Norman was forced to kill Harry and Spider-Man 2. Like he was forced to.
Yeah.
And that mental snap gives in to the Green Goblin.
Mm. Or could you have like a reversal of the roles from the Sam Raimi movies, where Harry somehow dies because like he doesn't have the Venom thing anymore, and that causes him to die from his illness, and Peter or Spider-Man is there with him as he's dying. Norman walks in and is like, Spider-Man, you killed him. And it's like a reverse of the Sam Raimi films. And then Norman gets that lust for revenge, goes crazy, trying to kill Spider-Man, comes Green Goblin that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the art isn't the execution too, right? On
Mm-hmm.
paper, I would really love for them to just do something completely out of left field and
Mm-hmm.
take risks, but execution is key. If they really build up Norman's character in this game to where that decision really hits us, then sure. You know, it's to me, it's the execution. I think it's just interesting, you know, where they go. I mean, this could be, what if Harry dies? Spider-Man has nothing to do with it. Norman knows that, but he still uses his political, you know, machinations, so to speak, uses his connections to frame Spider-Man's death on
Oh,
Harry to help somehow, some way fuel the Green Goblin funding or whatever.
yeah.
And uh that could show just how much of a piece of garbage Norman is,
Mm-hmm.
because he loved his son and he was still willing to use him as a pawn, you know,
Yeah.
like that'd be cool. It's just, I don't know. I mean, but then again, what I just said kind of goes against the notion of Norman really loving Harry and he'll do anything for him. But what if that love is more controlling, you know, like more like, I expect you to do what I want, you know, not more like a genuine love, but more like a possessive, you know, like
Yeah.
I don't know, like there's a lot that they could do, man. But I think that's more evidence as to why Superior Spider-Man will happen in Spider-Man 3, because it's going back full circle to the original conflict, which was really between Otto and Norman,
Yeah.
reborn as Superior Spider-Man versus Green Goblin. And maybe, you know, I don't know, man. Like me, I don't
And
know. Like if
because Spider-Man versus Green Goblin is a fight we've seen it done so many times because he's his main villain, so of course we have. But it's a way of us seeing that again, but making it fresh and new,
Mhm.
which
Or
is good. It's exciting.
I I would love this subversion too. What if they killed Norman halfway through the game?
Mm, okay.
I don't have a reason why or a replacement why. It's just, and Across the Spider-Verse, I loved how they turned Spot from a joke, from a meme, very similar to Electro's arc in Amazing Spider-Man 2, to at the end, I'm gonna take everything from you, Miles. And he opens like portals everywhere and he goes from silly to horrifying
Yeah.
just like that. Um, there was like a build up to that because he left halfway through the movie, right? He becomes scary, he becomes horrifying. You're going to expect him to be the big bad, and then he's gone. He bounces. So you're in a state of like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? You're completely thrown off. So if you had Norman Osborn die halfway through the game and that leaks, you've still protected your biggest spoiler.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know who they're going to replace it with. I don't know why. That's probably a very stupid idea. I don't know. But I think creatively, that would be what I would really appreciate if somehow, some way, Green Goblin was done with halfway through the game. And now you have to deal with some more horrifying ramification that ties up the
Mhm.
trilogy. I don't know.
Well, that is. I'd love to see them do that. Seeing,
It's
by the way, I saw something about Superior Spider-Man, the comic returning in some comic form. Like,
okay.
I don't know what that
Let's
is. Do
talk
you know
about.
what that is?
No, we don't have. I mean, we know like Superior Spider-Man is returning.
Okay.
Dan Slott is that. It's not going to be a limited series. It's going to be an ongoing series. It's going to start publishing or be printed in October. I forget the day. Um, my issue though is where the comics or with the games and the movies are truly setting the standard for not just Spider-Man media but superhero media in general.
Hmm.
Um, the comics just rest on the laurels of past accomplishments and current movies. I'm serious. What happens when a casual fan watches a Spider-Man movie? They go to the comic book store to try to learn more, and either they're really about it or they're not. That's what happens.
Yeah.
So a lot of comics that are sold is literally just off of synergy, brand synergy.
Hmm.
It's not actual being invested in the story every single week or every single month. You
Hmm.
get what I mean?
Yeah.
So um that's an issue. So because of that, a lot of the comic book industry I feel like is lazy. Because and the Marvel, I want to be clear, I'm not trying to insult all comic book brands. Because I don't, bro, I honestly don't even read a lot of Marvel anymore. I read a lot of Image. That's what I really
Yes.
love.
Image is where
Um,
it's at.
I would love Image Comics, please. I would love to like network with you guys. Like, can I copyright for you? Can I write emails for you so I can be, my face, and then I'll work up to scripts. Like, come on, help me out, Image. Like, but no, I love Image Comics, but Marvel has just it's become they're not taking any risks. It's recycled. It's lazy. It's shock value. So how do we anger the fans the most to generate the most sales? Um, and it's just toxic all around. Like the comics just they're decadent. They're Manchester United resting on past laurels, literally.
Yeah.
They're Manchester United. They're literally Manchester United resting on past laurels, not doing anything right now. Everybody else is doing other stuff. The movies, the games, they're doing their own thing. The comics, they're just whatever. And it's sad because Across the Spider-Verse is literally a love letter to comics. You'd think the
Mm.
comics currently would be better, but the only good Spider-Man comic right now is the Miles Morales run by Cody Zegler. It's awesome. Misty Knight and the organized crime part of New York is a huge part of this Miles run. So
Okay.
you've known, bro, for 2 years I've been saying I would love to see Miles take on the mob. I would love to see Miles take on more street dark crime. Now we're getting that. He's with Misty Knight. It's implied he's going to be crossing Luke Cage soon, Daredevil soon, being a big part of that.
Yes.
So this is what the Miles character needs. So the comic is doing great. Like Miles it's the best time to be a Miles fan. It's literally the best time to be a Miles fan, dude. But I think my question to you, man, is talking about Superior Spider-Man is what's happening. It's just recycled. How do you fix the comics Peter Parker? Like, how do you fix that? Do you
Oh,
fix that? Like, do you even try to fix that? Like,
well, I think this maybe isn't a good idea from making money point of view, but I think he just needs a break before they sort of start again. Just maybe just a year, no Peter Parker Spider-Man run. Just take a year off. maybe it won't affect the sales anyway because the sales are going down because it's dog shit. But won't be that bad. Like they're already doing harm to it. What's having a year's break gonna do? Um,
Right.
just take a year off and then really have a think about where it's going next. Get a team who actually cares about the character and the story, which you probably what you'd think they'd do that anyway, but they've just not been. And then just don't try and do too much like that. It's it's not hard to tell a good Spider-Man story because he's got so much history. Everyone knows the character so well. And what I would do actually is just give Robert Kirkman a blank check and let
Mm.
him rather than he's done like one-offs and that let him do a run of Spider-Man.
And get a
Wait,
new editor.
get Ryan
Get a
Otley
new
as well.
Yeah, and get a new editor. With all due respect, Nick Lowe,
Yeah.
you let's get somebody new. You can do good stuff somewhere else. I just respectfully, I just don't think
Hmm.
you're the best fit for this character, considering you didn't even know the names of your own characters on Twitter. Kind of embarrassing, but um, I'm just saying, bro. Like, I would definitely want other editors on,
Yeah.
because if Chip Zdarsky doesn't want to work with them, why would Robert Kirkman?
Basically, just get the Invincible team
Yes,
on
literally,
Spider-Man
dude.
because there is similarities. He's well, Invincible's like a young teenager. He's got the human aspect to him, which is relatable. Peter Parker is a young guy who goes through human problems. So Robert Kirkman obviously understands the character as we've seen before. So just get that team, bring them back together for Spider-Man. That's how I'd do it.
And would you, in terms of character beat, where would Peter be in his life? Is he married and does he have a kid? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem that because like um we nearly had that and we got that very
Mhm.
cruelly taken away from us.
Mm.
And maybe somewhere like not as comedic as Peter B. Parker in the first Into the Spider-Verse movie, but something like that where maybe where like him and MJ are trying to work things out, and then it does have a happy ending, maybe something like that. I wouldn't mind seeing. Um, but I'd if they had Robert Kirkman in charge, I'd trust him with it basically, and
Yeah, he doesn't miss.
yeah, never missed. But it doesn't have to be something wildly out there. It just has just a simple story about him, bring him back to ground level, fighting crime, not fighting some weird worm looking guy who turns out to be a dead Harry Osborn. Like who cares about that? No, nobody wanted that. Nobody asked for that.
You
Um,
know how I would, you know how I would write it? I would
go on.
make Peter Parker like one of those content creators that travel the world.
Oh yeah.
That's what I would do. So I would have Peter Parker be like a professor or something, or an English teacher where he goes around the world and like, stays in certain countries or whatever towns for like a year or 6 months, wherever he's needed. And while he's, being like a science teacher wherever he's at, he's also fighting crime and helping out the community there. So that changes stuff, right? Because now you establish that Miles is New York's Spider-Man.
Okay.
Two, you make Peter more of a legendary Luke Skywalker like figure in the Spider-Man community, like within Miles, Cindy, Ben, Kane. They see Peter still around the world helping people. He's going to become a legend. So he's,
Mhm.
in a way, superseded the Spider-Man mantle,
Yeah.
even though he's still Spider-Man.
Hmm.
Um, and then too creatively. You have different challenges, different villains. How Peter interacts in different cities is different because how you use traversal, like web swinging. Certain cities might have a lot of skyscrapers. Other cities, it's a lot of parkour and like jumping over, walls and stuff like that. Not a lot of high rises. So I think having Peter travel the world as a teacher, helping impoverished communities all over the world, and then facing local villains and helping them out, having it kind of be like this episodic serialized run, but each run is full of heart, really, adds really fun new stuff to the character and is an
Mhm.
iconic run similar to J. Michael Straczynski's, for example. That's where I would take it. A Peter Parker that travels the world and helps people wherever he goes.
Mhm.
And kind of make him like a Luke Skywalker-esque figure within the Spider-Man world. That's how I would do it. Um, and finally, I would have him beat the shit out of Paul. That's what I would.
Oh,
We
because
hate Paul here. We
what
don't
what
like
is the
Paul.
point? Why?
We don't like Paul.
Why? Right, I can't remember the name of this TV show, but I remember seeing a clip from this really old TV show, like it's from like early 2000s. This kid gets run over by a car and his head gets squished. They need to have that happen to Paul.
you know, hey man, I would be okay with this current run if they just completely retcon it and just make Paul a villain. I'd be like, all right, we forget a terrible run and we get a new Spider-Man villain. All right, we'll take a win. Sure. Just make
What?
Paul a villain.
Just like have Peter throw a bagel at his head, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm a villain."
Yeah, yeah, or something where
like
this would
like
be interesting.
like the spot.
Or I don't know, maybe give him the Venom symbiote. Oh no, 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 that's stupid because the Venom
Oh,
symbiote in the comics is good
oh,
now. Yeah,
have the no, give him Venom and have the Venom symbiote just eat him alive.
yeah. Yeah, never mind. We don't want to see Paul as a meaningful character. We just want to see him burn. But
Yeah, it
yeah.
very very slowly and painfully where you see his flesh just slowly drip away.
Hopefully we see that in Beyond the Spider-Verse. Please
Yes.
make this happen. Before we go, bro, let me ask you a final question. We know Miles is coming to live action. It's
Okay.
fairly assumed it's going to be in the MCU. Um, how would you pitch a live action Miles? Let's do that to finish off
Well,
today's episode.
before I saw Across the Spider Verse, I was kind of thinking maybe Beyond the Spider Verse will end with sort of Miles transitioning into live action. But after this film, I don't want that. I just want this story to end, in a nice, sort of rounded way. Um, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I think maybe take a similar uh, approach to how the game introduced Miles. So how Aunt May is, working at Feast. Not, obviously don't do it step by step, but Aunt May sort of introduces Miles to Peter, and then it's that Peter is mentoring Miles in both his personal life as well as being Spider-Man. I think I quite like that. Um, but I think it's gonna be around what 2027, 2028, possibly when that film's out.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while.
So what I'd like by then is for maybe that to be Tom Holland's stepping off point, possibly. So Spider-Man 4 coming out probably 3 years away.
Okay.
And then I'd introduce Miles in, if say you're giving Tom Holland another trilogy, I'd introduce Miles in the second one as sort of a minor character, and then have him fully become Spider-Man in the third one, and really have it being a passing of the torch in the third movie,
Okay.
and then he
I like
becomes like the main Spider-Man.
I like that.
Yeah.
Then I will.
Or sorry, what one more thing.
No, no,
Or,
keep going, keep going, keep going.
or you introduce Miles in sort of the Sony Spider-Man universe, in sort of a traditional, sort of, well, you say traditional, but like the way the Miles stories normally go, where Peter dies and Miles is the only Spider-Man in this film's universe, and then he somehow merges with the MCU, sort of a similar way to the comics and stuff. But I'd I'd prefer my first idea. What's your thoughts? Should
I
we
would.
should we start another call just for the ending? Sure.
I think we can end it in.
Okay, go. Yeah, go.
So I think how I would do it is I would take what you said, have Miles introduced and Tom Holland and pass the torch, and then the live action Miles movie, like the solo Miles movie, make him around. It's gonna be different. 26, 27 years old as a character.
Okay.
Make him adult, make him have a completely different hairstyle, like maybe like dreads or braids or something like that, just to visually differentiate the character from the other iterations that we've seen. Make him a music producer or a sound engineer, music sound engineer. So he's like working at, like, they can do Sony brand synergy because it's a Sony film. So he's working at Sony headquarters or something on their sound design. And maybe as Spider-Man, great power comes with responsibility. He sees a lot of horrible behind the scenes corporate practices done, like product testing on people, that is illegal, that they didn't truly consent to, how like big pharma works, big corporations work. So then maybe put Miles in that sector, kind of go away from the sci-fi villains to the more, where's the money type villains, the more corporations, stuff like that. Through his science love, where Peter was biology, he's more sound engineering and design.
Okay.
So that's where I would take it.
Yeah, I'd
And
like that.
that way you can also keep Shamik Moore.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, he
He wants
he
to be Miles,
he
yeah.
really wants to be, and he obviously loves the character. So I'd love that. It's such a good way to have him become the live action one, and have it make sense because he's
And he's
far
and
too old
he's
to play a 15-year-old.
and he's playing both characters, right? He's playing one version of Miles and he's playing another version of Miles, similar to Charlie Cox playing one version of Daredevil and another version, even though he's the same actor. He can
Hmm.
do that here too. And he can
Yeah.
change up and push the character in a more fresh direction instead of something that we've already seen. Make him an adult music producer or music sound engineer that sees a lot of horrible stuff behind the scenes and attacks that with his Spider-Man powers. But with that, guys, that's the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. This was a blast. We loved Across
Yes.
the Spider-Verse. Ollie, give us your final rating out of 10 for the movie, man.
10.
I'm gonna give it a 10 billion, like
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Thank you,
I give it
Sony.
42 out of 10.
42 out of 10. I like that. 42 out of 10. Thank you.